looking to shock the MAAC and move on to tomorrow night's title game. Alex Franklin gets the opening tip from Mike Ivanovich, and we are underway here in Albany.
And Fairfield starts off the game in zone. They will continue to mix and match, although I think you'll see a lot more zone from them today than we saw yesterday.
Hasbrook comes out firing as he did yesterday, but misses on his first attempt.
And Fran McCaffrey said, I loved Kenny's energy, especially in the first couple of minutes yesterday.
Well, for the regular season games here in Albany, where Siena hosts everybody but their crosstown rival from Albany, from UAlbany, they have curtains up covering some of the upper deck to make it feel more intimate. And Kenny Hasbrook talked about yesterday during warm-ups having the arena open back up again. He threw 2 air balls. He had to get reused to having the big wide open space. First point scored by Lyndon Jordan. Fairfield 2, Siena nothing. Edwin Ubilis answers back with a quick 2.
And that's the key, the quick 2. As we said, try to get this game going. Speed it up. They've got to run the ball up the floor on both misses as well as makes.
Ubilis had a terrific quarterfinal game, 18 points on 6 of 9 shooting. And he, like most of the Siena starters, because of the margin against Canisius, had a chance to get some rest in the second half, and perhaps that will pay dividends in this ball game. Hasbrook jumps into the passing lane. Rossiter comes away with the ball.
Get the trap and then the defensive rotation to come up with the steal.
Ronald Moore, no-look pass. Franklin on the reverse.
And that's why it's so important to have Ronald Moore on the floor. Yesterday in the first half when they were sluggish and all of a sudden Canisius was hanging around, there's a big reason. Ronald Moore was sitting down with his 2 fouls. Once he got back into the ball game, their offense really clicked.
Moore leads the conference in assists per game. It's 6 per game. Turner kicks back to the corner. Jordan trying to make it 2 in a row, can't do it. Franklin was shoved in the back, and Hawkins picks up the personal foul.
Here's why it's so important. Moore splits the zone defense, gets in draws, and then able to find inside. He's got that great quickness and the ability to get by people. Once he does, all he's thinking about is which teammate's open.
Well, you've talked, Rob, over the year about the defined roles, and Niagara is a team in this tournament. As Ubilis hits a 3 that has defined roles, Siena, in largely the same way, has players who are versatile but still have their defined roles.
No question. And the one role that they can't live without is Ronald Moore running the point.
And Ronald Moore has assisted on all 3 Siena buckets so far. They lead 7-2. Another baseline jumper. This one a much more open look, and Jamal Turner, who rarely shoots the basketball, looks good doing it that time. Hasbrook quickly again back the other way.
So on both Fairfield makes, Siena's been able to rush it down the floor for a quick, easy 2.
9-4 Siena. The Saints are the number 1 seed, and they were the preseason pick of the coaches. Fairfield was the number 2 preseason pick, but they come into this tournament as the 5th seed. They tied for 4th place in conference play along with Manhattan. Both the Jaspers and Stags were 9-9 in conference play. Urel Hawkins, another baseline jumper. That seems to be the weak spot in the Siena defense.
It's been that left baseline, but here's the answer at the other end. 3 scores for Fairfield along the left side on the baseline, but all that does is allow Siena to rush it right back up and score quickly.
And another assist for Ronald Moore.
They've got to figure out a way to stop Ronald Moore. You can't allow him to get that deep into the lane. He's got 5 assists. Once again, just showing how important he is to this basketball team.
Rossiter is a sophomore from Staten Island, and he's got himself a 3-point play. Now Fairfield needs to make sure they don't allow Siena to get too far out in front, because this roster for Fairfield won't allow them, you wouldn't think, to make a big push if they get down too far. Ivanovich can stroke the 3, a little short that time. Franklin rebounds up to Ronald Moore, and here comes the junior point guard once again. Another dish beautifully to Rossiter.
Oh, right now they've got to figure out a way to not allow Ronald Moore to get so deep so quick. You got to meet him earlier on the defensive possession.
Now Moore has already reached his season average in less than 4 minutes. He leads the league at 6 assists per. He's got 6 right now on 6 Siena field goals.
Ed Cooley said, hey, yeah, it's easy to come up with the game plan to slow him down. A lot harder to execute it.
Herbie Allen misfired. Caught on the push-off for the rebound, Edwin Ubelis. And that'll take us to our first official timeout. Quick start for the home team here in Albany. Siena on top, 14-6. Through the first 4 minutes and 12 seconds, Ronald Moore has set up every one of Siena's 6 buckets. This, the fruit of Ronald Moore's labor.
Well, he leads the league in assists, top 20 in the country, and as we said, he's the maestro. He's the guy that gets everything going for Fran McCaffrey's team.
And there you see the numbers among the nation's best in assist-to-turnover ratio as well as assists per game, and he's already matched that season total in under 5 minutes. His head coach, Fran McCaffrey, brought to you by Anaconda Sports, home of the Rock. 1982 graduate of Pennsylvania of the Ivy League. He's this year's MAAC Coach of the Year, as announced on Thursday, meanwhile matching wits with Ed Cooley. And if you're Ed Cooley, how do you slow down Ronald Moore?
I tell you what, you've got to figure out a way to get to him earlier in the defensive possession. Somebody's got to slow him down in the backcourt. As we said, one of the keys is you've got to run good offense. Even though Fairfield has scored it, they've scored it quick in possessions. Siena out of the timeout, showing zone for the first time tonight.
Now this may be a bit premature, Rob, but with such a start for Moore, you automatically look up the tournament record for assists in a game. DeRamus Betterman had 13 in a Siena-Fairfield game 15 years ago. But with the way Moore has been running this offense, that may be in jeopardy.
And you've got to convert baskets like that, because if you don't, here comes Siena rushing right at you. Hawkins had an easy put-back opportunity and wasn't able to convert.
This is Moore, listed at 6 feet, 160 pounds, from Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. Rossiter along the baseline, back to Moore. He pulls the trigger. He's making all the right decisions.
And great ball movement. Everybody sharing the basketball. 5-6 guys touch the basketball on that possession. They look very crisp offensively here in the early going.
7-0 Siena run, and Ronald Moore has quite a motor. He has run a mile in under 5 minutes. So you know he's not going to tire, and there aren't going to be many people on the floor quicker than him. Greg Nero misses off the window, one and done again, and here come the Saints.
And if you can score it in the paint, that's one way to slow Ronald Moore down. You miss, here he comes.
Finally, Fairfield able to stop Rossiter with a block shot from behind by Lyndon Jordan.
But it was still another good Ronald Moore pass that got him what looked like an easier opportunity. He made it more difficult by going to the other side of the rim.
Well, it's Tulane that has the nickname of the Green Wave, but so far through the first 6 minutes, it's been Siena's Green Wave.
And for Fairfield, they got to make sure it's not a tidal wave coming at you, because they do not have the offensive firepower to make up a lot of ground quickly. That's not how this Fairfield team is constructed right now.
Well, this will help Fairfield's cause. Edwin Ubelis sitting down with 2 fouls. He is a first-team all-conference player at nearly 15 points and 5 rebounds per game. And Ubelis led Siena in yesterday's victory with 18 points. So Fran McCaffrey goes to his bench for the first time, and he brings in the conference's 6th man of the year in Clarence Jackson. Jordan guarded by Hasbrook. Nero given some space. He misfires. Franklin with another rebound. Remember, Alex Franklin in the quarterfinals last night took quite a blow to the head. And he seems to be no worse for wear, which is good to see. He spent the rest of the game on the bench when he was not in the game with an ice pack on his head. Imagine he has quite a welt, but he has played well through the first 7 minutes here.
And again, able to win by 25 comfortably over Canisius. Another benefit. You didn't have to throw Franklin back in. Hasbrook, once he came out in that second half, he was able to sit the rest of the way.
Yeah, Hasbrook scored all 16 of his points in the first half and then spent the better part of the second half watching his teammates finish off the Griffins. Nice backdoor pass, and Jackson's fouled. So Clarence Jackson, knifing along the baseline, will go now to the line for 2.
He's been able to knife and get himself going, especially when he's got the ball leading the break. Nice look away, patient enough to find Jackson. What Jackson does as the 6th man, as you mentioned, Doug, 6th man of the year in the MAAC, he brings them instant offense. His role is to come in and get them points.
he has done that. And Clarence Jackson is not shy. He averages about 14 minutes per game, and he takes a shot nearly every 2 minutes, and that is way more shots than anybody else on the team, but nobody begrudges him that because he's that kind of talent.
And that's his role. Yep. He comes in and he's going to get shots up. When you take his 8.3 average and you take it and extrapolate it over 40 minutes, he averages 23 points per game per 40 minutes played.
There you see Fairfield has certainly cooled off, missing its last 8 shots from the floor. Ten seconds to shoot. Again, this is part of the MO for Fairfield. Try to slow it down and look for a good shot late in the shot clock. Rossiter grabs the rebound away from Nero. Hasbrook has his pass taken away, and here comes Lyndon Jordan. Right to the basket. Sweet looking move for 2.
And here's where you got to pick him up early. Ronald Moore, by the time somebody gets him, is in the paint.
There's an easy 2 again for Rossiter, who's got 7, all courtesy of Mr. Moore.
Now, Moore's got 2 points, but he has been absolutely dominant. And again, he's just having the ability in the open floor, miss or make, to rush it too deep up the floor.
Allen has it knocked away. It comes to Jordan, who knocks down the three-pointer.
Now, Jordan's been aggressive here, looking for his own shot.
There you see 7 points for Jordan to lead the Stags. Hasbrook answers quickly at the other end.
Well, they've got such great scoring balance. So many guys that are offensive weapons out on the floor. Talked about one of the keys for Siena was to speed it up and rush the ball up the floor on miss or make. So Fairfield gets out. You're excited that you've scored the basketball. And here comes Ronald Moore. And by the time a defender meets him, Herbie Allen, he's already into the paint. That is a great job of executing Fran McCaffrey's game plan.
Well, Ronald Moore is the younger brother of Chuck Moore, who was a standout performer at Vanderbilt. He's also cousins with John Salmons in the NBA, who was recently traded from the Kings to the Bulls. And they're not just distant relatives. These are players that he has played with his entire life, trying to keep up with the guys who are older and better than him, and it certainly has paid dividends for the Saints.
You take a look at their resume coming in, their 3rd consecutive 20-win season. They've won 19 straight in this building, 4th best in the country, and they've been hot, winning 14 out of 16 and had the comfortable win in the quarterfinal. One of the things for Ronald, when Chuck Moore's your brother, Chuck didn't pass it.
Better be an assist man.
Warner Fussell, who used to do the Seton Hall games, his favorite line was Chuck's Moores. So Ronald's certainly able to feed his bigger brother, who's a terrific shooter, much like Clarence Jackson.
And we should mention that Chuck Moore ended his college career at Vanderbilt and began his college career at Seton Hall. Clarence Jackson with his first field goal, just a sophomore from Marlton, New Jersey, now with 4 points. Siena with a 14-point lead, not quite midway through the first half. Herbie Allen has its pocket picked by Ronald Moore, and here comes Rossiter. No rattle that time, straight through the cylinder.
Yeah, he snuck a dunk yesterday. He did that one with a little authority, and the fans like it, and what they've got to love is the unselfish play offensively. The fans may like what's going on, but certainly Ed Cooley did not like what was going on, and Ed Cooley just got teed up. Once again, in transition, figure you got to get back into the paint to try and keep Ronald Moore out of the paint. But instead, they kick it ahead. Nice shovel. And as we said, no dink there. Didn't rattle it. He made sure the big guy, Ross, he likes it too.
And going into that timeout, Ed Cooley was called for a technical foul, as he has seen his team overrun through the first 9 minutes.
Well, they've had such great fight and heart and determination coming down the stretch after losing so much. We've talked about it throughout the season. Warren Edney was playing great basketball. He's out with the ankle injury. Anthony Johnson, medical situation. Jonathan Hahn, their first team preseason All-MAAC selection. Their point guard ended up leaving the program. And certainly Hahn had 2 good games against this Siena Saint teams. He had over 20 in each of their first 2 meetings back in January.
And so Rossiter, who is by percentage Siena's best free throw shooter, misses the first. He could reach double figures. And you know, Rossiter has in spite of his size at 6'9" and 230, become a terrific finisher on the break and ahead of Ronald Moore. And we have seen him repeatedly already here be in front of the break as we take a look at what you were talking about, Rob. Hahn, Johnson, and Edney all gone for the year. Also, Greg Nero, who was in our Star Watch, has missed a chunk of time this year with a bad back and with illness, and he just returned to the lineup in time for yesterday's quarterfinal. Still not 100%.
And still not really in game shape. Hasn't been able to practice. Matter of fact, he missed walkthrough earlier today as he was back in the hospital earlier today. So they've been all kinds of banged up. To just be able to survive and keep your team together long enough to make a good run at the end of the season and get the nice win yesterday in the quarterfinals was a good accomplishment.
This time, Jackson's pass a little too far out in front of Alex Franklin, out of bounds. Siena 28, Fairfield 11. The Saints trying to secure their spot in tomorrow's MAAC championship game. Welcome back to the Citizens Bank MAAC Championship presented by Pepsi Max. Doug Sherman along with Ron Kennedy. Glad you could be with us here at the Times Union Center. MAAC Championship winners, we want to give a tip of the cap to some of the champions crowned already this year, including, on the bottom line, the women's basketball team from Marist, who cut down the nets earlier here today at this very building after knocking off Canisius for the 2009 title. And also we want to tell you about the 2009 MAAC Baseball Championships coming up in Trenton, New Jersey, May 21st through the 23rd at Waterfront Park. You can buy tickets by calling 609-394-3300, or you can go online to MAACsports.com. Moore's pass ultimately wound up in the hands of Herbie Allen, but then out of bounds back to Siena.
So no let up from the Saints. They come out of the timeout, extend their full court pressure. They've had good success, especially in the second part of the season with their three-quarter court track.
9 assists already for Ronald Moore, although there is a turnover, which has been a rarity for him this season.
He may have that record by halftime.
If Doremus Bennerman's watching, get ready to give up that record. Again, the all-time MAAC tournament record, 13 assists in one game. Nice backdoor look, and Hawkins lays it in.
Now Rossiter got caught up high as he tried to hedge on high ball screen.
Jackson on a mismatch. Pulls up and shoots over Ryan Olander. Ivanovic with a rebound. Sean Crawford, freshman guard off the bench. He and Herbie Allen now manning the backcourt for the Stags. Crawford drives on Kyle Downey. 15-footer by Olander, no. Rossiter clears the rebound. Ryan Rossiter and Alex Franklin share the team lead in rebounds per game, both at about 7.5. A teardrop by Moore comes back to him, and the point guard pulls it back out. Jackson lost his footing along the baseline and turns it over. Owen Wignott coming into the ballgame, coming off his career high in points yesterday. As Alex Franklin goes out, Nero also back in. Owen Wignott scoring 10 points against Canisius, topping his previous mark by 1. And Fran McCaffrey has said all season that he only wishes he could find more minutes for Wignott. But when you've got so many upperclassmen who are all-conference performers, it can be tough to get on the floor if you're a freshman.
It's like freshmen in the old days when you kind of worked your way in, got some more minutes, and by the time you were a sophomore or junior, then you got your minutes. Now everybody wants those playing opportunity right off the bat.
6th turnover now for Siena as Moore gets a little sloppier with the ball. There you see head coach Ed Cooley, longtime assistant under Al Skinner at Rhode Island and Boston College. And they were tied at the end of the year with Manhattan at 9-9. Then they beat the Jaspers in the quarterfinal round yesterday. And again, Greg Nero, the only player in the lineup averaging double figures. Although again, since the injuries and the loss of Jonathan Hahn, these players who are now playing extended minutes have been averaging double figures since. It's not like they only as a team score 35 per game. But people have certainly stepped up, including Urel Hawkins, including Herbie Allen, Mike Ivanovic, Lyndon Jordan, Sean Crawford. They'll need to step it up here, though, as they trail by 12 to Siena. We'll be right back to Albany after this.
Or in a college. Cutting-edge academic programs, a faculty that's second to none, great recreational opportunities and residence halls? How about a college that will provide you with the education you need to become a leader in your profession and in your community? If that's what you're looking for in a college, you'll find it at Canisius. To learn more about Canisius College, call 1-800-843-1517 or visit us on the web at canisius.edu. Canisius College, where leaders are made.
Welcome back to the Citizens Bank MAAC Championships presented by Pepsi Max. And don't miss out on the excitement. It's still not too late to get your tickets now for the Citizens Bank MAAC Championship game tomorrow night here at the Times Union Center in Albany, New York. Get your tickets now by calling 1-800-30-EVENT or logging on to timesunion.com. MAAC Madness, the tradition continues. Well, between the previous official timeout, Rob, and this most recent one, the Siena fast break started turning the ball over, and certainly not the well-oiled machine we saw the first 10 minutes.
Hard to keep the pace we saw in the first 10 minutes, though. And for Fairfield, even though they're down by 12, they've got to continue to grind it out. They can't be taking quick shots. They've got to just kind of work their way slowly back into the ball game.
Clearly, it looked like they were going to be overwhelmed, but like you say, over the last 4 minutes, they got the tempo a little bit slowed down and have inched their way back to 12.
The problem is they haven't been able to score in the paint, and credit Siena's defense, again, doubling the post, forcing the turnover.
Downey takes the contact, the tip in, either Jackson or Rossiter. They give it to Rossiter. He's now got a dozen.
And for Siena, more points in the paint. They're outscoring them inside 14-4. And one of the keys for Fairfield is if you can score inside in the paint, it slows down the break. But you got to get a shot attempt up.
Again, the defense turning over the Stags. Hasbrook misses. Rossiter misses. Hasbrook again.
Well, right now just dominating inside in the paint. So just when it looked like maybe Fairfield was going to crawl their way back into it, Siena's got them doubled up.
It's back to a 16-point ball game. Allen guarded by Hasbrook. Entry pass intended for Hawkins goes out of bounds untouched. The 8th turnover against Fairfield and the 3rd since that last time out.
As we said, if you can't get shot attempts up, that's a problem. You turn it over, and Siena does a great job of turning turnovers into quick points at the other end.
A round of applause is for Ryan Rossiter heading to the bench with a game-high 12 points. Over his last 10 games before tonight, Rob, he was hitting 71% of his field goal attempts, and that number is going up so far here tonight.
Not a bad way to get things done.
Alex Franklin, also another high-percentage shooter with another 2.
And that was not a high-percentage shot.
No.
Even though he was in the lane, he got bounced a little bit. Tough finish.
Allen misses on the runner. Long rebound comes out to Jordan. Ivanovic, nice look inside. Olander throws it down.
Good feed from Ivanovic as Olander, he's one of those freshmen. What he's got to hope is his offseason, he's able to do what Ryan Rossiter did in between his freshman year and the start of his sophomore season. Olander's a guy with good size and some skills, and like Rossiter, he's going to have a more prominent role next year for the Stags.
Olander is 6'11", 215 from Mansfield, Connecticut. Meanwhile, Hasbrook scored again, and here come the Saints 4-on-2. Alex Franklin looking to go coast to coast, has it knocked out of bounds. It'll be Siena basketball. That's your power forward doing that. Strip and leading the break.
Well, that's one of the reasons why Fran McCaffrey's team is so good offensively. They've got guys who are skilled. They've got 5 guys on the floor that can score. It's a lot more difficult to defensively come up with a game plan to shut them down when they've got guys that can all step up and score, handle and pass. They've got very skilled offensive players.
Foul on Clarence Jackson after he had his shot blocked. With a win here today, Siena would extend the home court winning streak to 20. And again, this probably goes into the books as a neutral site game officially because it's the tournament, but the reality of it is this is Siena's home floor and the big crowd here. They have not lost in Albany at this building since February of '08 when Ryder picked them off.
And not only have they been winning games here in this building, they've been blowing teams out.
Yes. Jackson this time won't have that shot blocked, and he buries it.
Well, he's wide open, trailing, and again, pick your poison. You try to take him away as they've been able to just pound him inside on the break, and now all of a sudden here comes the trailer stepping right into it.
Well, Jackson's had some big moments this year for the team. Again, Herbie Allen's in trouble. Franklin was the last to touch, and so the Stags will keep it with 22 to shoot. Down he goes out. There you see the numbers you were talking about. 14 points better than their opponents here in this building.
And they've been able to jump teams because of their offense, much like they did in the bracket buster when they were able to just kind of blow Northern Iowa away early on in that ball game because they were able to get out and run, much like they're doing right now.
Franklin posting Ivanovic. Hasbrook spotting up. Wignott had it knocked out of his hands, and Siena will keep it with 4:01 on the clock. Sean Crawford checks back in for Fairfield, and Herbie Allen will get a breather. Siena's also won 14 of 16 overall, and they are one win away from tying the program record at 25. Franklin bowls his way through Ivanovic, and that is a matchup that clearly will favor Siena if he's that deep.
Good call, because all he did was turn, lower his shoulder. All of a sudden, Ivanovic goes bouncing off him. Patience to finish it off.
Here's Ivanovic. Catch and shoot from deep. Way off the mark, and Hasbrook grabs the rebound for the Saints. Well, Siena's RPI, as you see, more now in double figures with assists, still with 3 minutes to go in the half. The RPI for Siena continues to climb up to 24 as of today in the country. So again, it makes you wonder if they don't walk away as Moore scores again with the championship tomorrow night. Will they get an at-large bid into the NCAA tournament?
And remember, once they went to Western New York and lost that game to Niagara up at the Taps Gallagher Center, everybody said, well, now all of a sudden, discussion of an at-large is out of the way. Well, it's not out of the way because of that RPI sitting at 24. There's only one team in the history of the NCAA tournament since it expanded to the 64 teams who's not gotten in with an RPI that good, and that's Missouri State back in 2006 when they had an RPI of 21. So if their RPI, and that's one thing that you don't know, if they lose a game in the finals, how's that going to affect their RPI? But most likely it's still going to be inside of 30, and that's going to keep them on the board for a long time.
And the RPI continues to be aided by teams that they played out of conference who continue to do well as Wignott knocks down the three. Team like their bracket buster opponent, Northern Iowa, making it to the championship of the Valley. Team like Kansas has gotten so much better as the season has gone on. So those numbers, as those teams succeed, Pittsburgh's another
Pitt had a good
loss.
win yesterday.
Absolutely. Those wins by Siena's opponents are what help to keep their RPI up so high. 1:48 to go first half. Siena with a 46-21 lead. The folks here at the Times Union Center love it. We'll be right back after this. We're back at the Citizens Bank MAAC Championships presented by Pepsi Max here in Albany. And the MAAC at Rider University, proud to serve as host of the 2009 NCAA Division I Women's Basketball Championship Trenton Regional on March 29th and 31st at Sovereign Bank Arena in Trenton, New Jersey. For ticket information, call 609-656-3224 or visit sovereignbankarena.com. And Siena has done all of this, led by Kenny Hasbrook, without Edwin Ubelis, basically on the bench for the better part of the first half because of 2 fouls.
Speaks volumes to their depth and balance. Again, even though Kenny Hasbrook's the player of the year in the league, this is a team that clearly is not dependent on any one guy.
2 players on the first team all-conference. 2 players on the second team all-conference. The 6th man of the year. Shot clock violation.
And with all that, it's easy then. What are you going to have? You're going to have the Coach of the Year with all those guys, and France certainly has done a terrific job.
Brandon McCaffrey pleased to win his first MAAC Coach of the Year award. Coming up at halftime, you can see we'll have our Men's Player of the Year award. We'll talk more about Kenny Hasbrook winning that on Thursday. And, of course, our first half highlights and stats. Also talk a little bit about the nightcap of our semifinal doubleheader coming up between Niagara and Ryder. Allen goes to the floor. The pick and roll picked out of the air by Wignott over to Jackson. Good energy by Nero, but he can't corral it. People colliding all over the place. Looks like bumper cars out there. Crawford and Moore wound up colliding. It looked like face to face. And Moore is called for the foul. Only 7 total fouls so far in the first half, Rob.
But that happens a lot with Siena. I mean, they average just a little over 15 fouls per game for a team that, even though they come up with a lot of steals, they don't gamble a ton defensively. Try and keep guys in front of them, and they do not foul.
And along with that, as Crawford buries the three, Fairfield has yet to take a free throw.
Well, when you look at their numbers throughout the season now, they've made more foul shots, Siena, than their opponents have attempted. That's always a good recipe.
Yeah, that's a good formula for success.
It also shows that they've had a lot of leads late in ball games when people are forced to foul and try and put them to the line.
Absolutely.
So, A, they don't foul, and B, they've had a lot of leads this year.
A lot of leads and relatively competitive leads where they would still be fouling. If you blew everybody out, you don't get into that situation so much. Wignott to the trailing Moore, who lays it in. This time the Maestro on the receiving end of a nice pass. As the buzzer sounds, Crawford misses the three. And the fans here in Albany come to their feet, applauding the Maestro. Ronald Moore, 10 assists along with his 6 points. He has orchestrated beautifully for the Saints.
He got them going right off the bat, rushing the ball up the floor. Fairfield's been using smoke and mirrors over the last couple weeks of the season. Looks like they've run out of smoke and mirrors.
The Rally Nuns love it. There's Siena Saints on top 48-24. Back with a halftime report after this.
At Fairfield University, we explore big questions, complicated ideas, and unlimited possibilities.
In a community of learners representing diverse beliefs, opinions, and experiences.
Actively engaged in a caring, supportive, and fun community.
Our education prepares us to be thoughtful, global citizens, serving the common good.
At Fairfield University, you will get an inspiring education.
For an inspired life.
Welcome to Marist College, a liberal arts college bridging the traditions of the past with the tools of the future, drawing inspiration from the historical, cultural, and artistic heritage of the Hudson River Valley. Marist College holds fast to the timeless values of its rich heritage while embracing advanced technology in the service of education.
Lights, set design, makeup, costumes, directing, playwriting, stage management, stage combat, voice, dance. There's so much more to theater than just acting. Here, I can learn it all. Check it out at niagara.edu/theater.
Niagara University, education that makes a difference.
Welcome back to the Citizens Bank MAAC Championships presented by Pepsi Max. We are at the Times Union Center in Albany. Our score, Siena 48, Fairfield 24. And the second half is just underway for Siena. Ronald Moore with 10 assists starting at the point. Ryan Rossiter with 12 points leading the way. Edwin Ubelis, Kenny Hasbrook, and Alex Franklin. Franklin goes down hard on his tailbone, and he stays down. Play continues at the other end of the floor, 5-on-4. And now the whistle is blown to stop play. Now, we talked about Franklin taking the heavy shot of the head last night, and it's the other end that gets it here.
See the box out by Ivanovic, and he just goes down hard on his backside. And he comes up, and I suspect that may be the last you see of him, at least for a while. You may get him back in there just to make sure he's loose and ready to go. But you and I talked about it. How long do you keep your starters out there? You're trying to win 3 games in 3 days, so clearly I think you'll see Fran McCaffrey try to get them some rest. But you also want to keep guys sharp, and so you don't want to have to sit them down. I know you've got a 24-point lead, but you don't want to start worrying about reducing minutes right off the bat.
Nero off the pick and roll, lays it in for 2. For Greg Nero, the junior from nearby Red Hook, New York, his first 2 points. Jackson just off the bench, replacing Franklin, and he buries the 3.
As we talked about in the first half, doesn't take long for Jackson to get shots up.
He averages a shot every 2 minutes, which is a lot.
You said it's always important for guys to accept the role. The role of instant scorer is always one that's a little easier to accept.
Don't have to do a lot of interviews for that one. Well, let's take a look at the FYE first half statistics. And Siena shooting over 62% from the floor, and that's not just all the layups, that's 5 for 10 from beyond the arc as well.
26 points in the paint. That was a tremendous 20 minutes of offensive basketball from the Saints.
And when you couple that with the second half last night against Canisius in the quarterfinals, that's a pretty good 40-minute stretch for Siena.
Absolutely. Doesn't get much better than that. You think about it, their last weekend is Ed Cooley just looking on saying, now what? But their last weekend in regular season play, they go up to Niagara and they get pounded. I mean, they were down 17 at the half in that ball game against Niagara. Ended up losing by 15, giving up 100 points. Struggled in the first half at Canisius, able to come back and get themselves the win. Struggled a little bit yesterday in the first half, and then all of a sudden it was as if the light switch went back on, because their last 2 halves of basketball probably as good as 2 halves back-to-back as they played all season.
I would imagine so. And again, this is a team that went to the NCAA tournament last year and defeated and blew out a very good SEC team, a ranked Vanderbilt team. And basically the same core unit back again, and so they are not only talented, but they are cohesive and veteran-laden. This core, 2 years ago as freshmen, made it all the way to the MAAC championship where they lost to Niagara, and in that title game, this crew that's now a junior, Franklin, Ubilis, and Moore, played basically the entire game. So they've been together for 3 years or more, playing in big games.
And that experience has really helped them because there were so many expectations because of their run in the NCAA tournament last year. I mean, Fran McCaffrey's team started off receiving votes in the very first AP poll. People had big expectations for the Siena team. Good to see Franklin right back in there.
And actually, 6 different weeks this season, Siena has received votes in the AP poll, and as recently as 2 weeks ago before they lost that Niagara game.
And they've been in conversation all season long as one of those potential mid-major teams that can make noise in the NCAA tournament if they get there.
Yep.
And so obviously an important weekend. Most important thing they've got to try to do is not allow it to be a conversation about should they be in, are they on the bubble, where does the RPI stack up, and how important is that? It all becomes moot point if you win.
Ronald Moore on the leak out, lays it in. Kenny Hasbrook winds up grabbing his right calf, and now a stoppage of play as another one of Siena's players is slow to get up in the early stages here in the second half. Well, we've talked about when do you start taking these guys out to protect them, and injuries can happen anytime, anywhere. You never know. Clarence Jackson also seems to have an issue with his chin.
Like he got a shot to the mouth. Yeah, we talked about it. You asked me off air, while we were sitting around. I said, probably about 10 minutes. But now all of a sudden when you start seeing this, then you start wondering. Now that is not a good sign right there. I thought initially maybe it was a cramp, but I'm not so sure.
Yeah, when you see the limb player grab that calf, that's what you think of first and you hope for. But they're going to walk him straight back behind the bench. And so the conference player of the year in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference hobbles off to the locker room here in the semifinal round.
And if you've ever pulled the calf muscle, you know that you're not going to be bouncing back 24 hours from that.
Try and get a report on that. just as soon as one is available. Sean Crawford, Mike Ivanovich, who fires away and hits. Herbie Allen, Urel Hawkins, and Greg Nero on the floor for the Stags, trying to make a ball game out of it here in the second half.
Well, that's what they had hoped to do early on. Put Nero in the post and force guys to double down inside on him, and then maybe Ivanovich would get some open looks outside.
Ubelis has it go down and come back out. Edwin Ubelis has just 5 points so far here tonight. He picked up a couple of quick fouls in the first half when he played only 6 minutes. Ivanovich guarded by Franklin into Nero. Back out to Allen. Nero immediately has 3 sets of eyes on him of the guys dressed in white, and he smartly saw all the attention's coming. He finds the open man, and Allen knocks it down.
And as we said, that's exactly what they wanted to do. Play through Nero in the low post.
53-35, Siena over Fairfield. We'll be right back after this. So far tonight, the Siena Saints have certainly played like the #1 seed they are here at the MAAC tournament. On top of Fairfield 53-35, and that momentum has been building ever since last year's NCAA tournament when the Saints knocked off 4th-seeded Vanderbilt and did it in convincing style. Tate Fisher, then the senior captain of this ball club, got things started from the outside, and then Kenny Hasbrook, this year's Conference Player of the Year, getting it done in all forms and fashions. He had an outstanding game. They held Shane Foster in check, and hugs all around as the Saints were the Cinderellas of last year's big dance. And the man wearing the glass slipper last year, Tate Fisher, in attendance here tonight. He is in graduate school at the College of St. Rose here in Albany and takes in a number of ball games here at the Times Union Center, watching his old teammates.
He was the biggest reason why they had the opportunity to win that ball game against Vanderbilt. His 3-point shooting barrage sealed the deal to make sure that they were able to win the MAAC championship and advance on into the NCAA tournament.
And Tate Fisher did play a little bit of pro ball after graduating last spring, but he wants to be an educator and a coach himself. Off the steal, Ubelis lays it in. Herbie Allen, who had it taken away, looks to the bench and says, "I need some help." Ubelis now with those 7 points. He and Kenny Hasbrook are neck and neck for the scoring lead on this Siena club. Hasbrook 14.9 per game. Ubelis at 14.8. Still working on getting a report on the injury suffered to the right leg of Kenny Hasbrook. He's back in the locker room being treated as we speak.
And the way this team is constructed, shots are shared. You know, they don't run a whole lot of sets right to one guy. They get good motion, get good action off of their half-court offense, and because of that, they have such great scoring balance.
Ronald Moore with the dribble. He had 10 assists in the first half. Franklin gives to Rossiter. Shot clock now coming into play, down to 5. Ubelis steps through. Crawford rebounds and a chance to run for the Stags. Herbie Allen pulls up from 22 and he hits it.
Well, they've been able to hit some threes to stay in the ball game for a bit here in this second half, and on that make, Ed Cooley taking a quick timeout.
Fairfield now 4 for 4 in the second half from beyond the arc after the Allen shot. Here's where we saw earlier as the steal converted at the other end by Edwin Ubelis.
And there's his length at the point of that three-quarter court trap. Got long arms, rangy, able to get a deflection and then turn it into a quick 2.
Here's Edwin Ubelis. And he is a young man who was born in New York City but raised in Poughkeepsie, about an hour south of Albany. He actually played his AAU basketball here in the city of Albany for the City Rocks, where he teamed for 2 years with one of his rivals here tonight, Greg Nero for Fairfield. And I asked Nero before the ball game, how often did Eubulus feed you on the post? And he just laughed. That's AAU ball. Got to fire away, and there is his old teammate.
Got to learn to offense or rebound sometimes.
Yep. Well, Nero is from Red Hook, and Eubulus from Poughkeepsie, so from the Mid-Hudson Valley both. Here is Eubulus from the corner. If at first you don't succeed, try again. And didn't succeed the second time. Ivanovic rebounds the Eubulus miss. Well, the balance that you were talking about, Rob. Jackson has 13 points, Rossiter 12, Hasbrook 9, Moore 8, Eubulus 7, and Franklin 6.
And that's what they've done consistently all season long.
Siena basketball. Hawkins was the last to touch. We'll step away with 13:42 remaining in the second. Ronald Moore and the Saints on top by 20.
St. Peter's College, success is a team effort. St. Peter's College, education one student at a time.
Welcome back to the Citizens Bank MAAC Championship presented by Max, Pepsi Max, and this start of this second half has been a rugged one for Siena as guys have been taking shots and going down hard.
One thing you don't want to happen is lose a guy for the championship game if you're comfortably ahead in the semifinals. Franklin went down hard, but we saw him come back. Jackson took a shot to the jaw. He's been able to work his way out. And we were very concerned about this play as Hasbrook went down, stayed down for a while. We saw him grab his calf as he limped back in to the locker room. And I just came from back there and ran into Jill Skatarzik, the assistant commissioner for media relations, and Fran McCaffrey, happy to hear that it looks like it's a cramp. They're icing him down, and that's good news for Fran McCaffrey and the Siena Saints, if indeed it is just a cramp.
Well, as you talk about, Rob, injuries are the only thing you don't want to have happen anytime, let alone in this circumstance with so much on the line. Franklin will have a chance for 3.
And we saw it last year with the Ryder Bronx. So Ryder shared the regular season co-championship with Siena last year. So we take a look at, again, good ball movement, quick, crisp passing, and then doesn't matter who you throw it to, guys can finish plays. The last year, Ryder shared the regular season championship, and then in the first round of the MAAC tournament in the quarterfinals, you have Ryan Thompson go down with what ended up being a concussion. He was out for the rest of the way, and then Justin Robinson, their starting point guard, he turned their ankle and he wasn't available. So now all of a sudden you come in with such great high hopes, and now all of a sudden your second best player and your starting point guard aren't available by the time you get to the championship game, and it's just that much more difficult at that point in time.
Eubulus steps in and buries the 10-foot jumper. But there is nothing you can do, really, to prevent catastrophic type injuries. There's only so much the training staff can do, and injuries are a part of sport. You just hope they don't hit at the wrong time and hit too severely. And that's certainly something Fairfield and Ed Cooley can attest to this year. Having lost Warren Edney, their starting swing man, to an ankle injury for the year. Having lost Anthony Johnson to blood clots. Greg Nero's been out with a back injury. Here's Ryan Rossiter taking a shot to the chops. Looked like maybe an elbow caught him on the jaw. Now, he's one of the players who does wear a mouth guard, so that helps to absorb some of the shock. But again, if you're Fran McCaffrey, you really got to start wondering, is this not our half?
Yeah, and in each of the situations, it wasn't as if it was a dirty play or a hard foul that caused it.
No.
It was just one of those freak accidents.
Yep.
Go for a rebound, you come down hard. Loose ball at midcourt, you're grabbing your calf. So,
yep,
it's one thing when guys track you from behind and all of a sudden give up a hard foul. Then those are the things that sit with you as a coach for a long time.
Yep.
All you got to do is ask Tommy Dempsey. He saw it last year in the quarterfinals.
Well, our upcoming MAAC championships include men's and women's tennis in mid-April at the National Tennis Center in Flushing Meadows. winding all the way to the end of May when the baseball champs will be crowned at Waterfront Park in New Jersey. We are here at the Times Union Center in Albany, New York for the men's basketball semifinals. They just do get the ball across the midcourt stripe in the nick of time. Wide open shot for Lyndon Jordan, well short. Alex Franklin with another rebound. More to Ubilis, and there's another assist.
More to whoever you want, doesn't matter. Maestro once again orchestrating a tremendous offensive first half.
And now that is 12 assists for a new career high for Ronald Moore.
He's the guy that gets everything going.
Here is the Maestro with assist number 12, a new personal high for the junior point guard of the Saints. We're back in Albany where Siena has its largest lead of the ball game, 64-38 over Fairfield. And we give you our FYE flashback 1 year ago in this very building in the MAAC championship game, Siena versus Ryder, and the Saints came away with a win.
And it was Ronald Moore once again orchestrating things on the break. Kenny Hasbrook and company able to finish. And the student section celebrates. There's Ryan Thompson. We were talking about both he as well as Justin Robinson, who didn't play. Dave Fisher certainly did, knocking down those big threes.
And Fran McCaffrey can only hope he can find someone to embrace again tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. Championship of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference will be on ESPN2 Live. Ubilis on the reverse.
Great high-low. Rossiter getting himself right to the elbow into the soft spot. Looking right inside to find Ubilis.
And Ubilis, just like in the quarterfinal round against Canisius, having a big second half, now with 13.
And doing what we talked about yesterday that he's going to have to do next year. When Kenny Hasbrook graduates, he's going to now have to step up and be a little bit more aggressive offensively.
He had 5 points in the first half, 8 so far here in the second half, 9 minutes gone. Ivanovic firing away. Ronald Moore with the rebound. One more assist here, and he'll tie the all-time tournament record. Instead, it's a turnover as Jackson couldn't handle the pass. Olander on the post. A little bit short. And Ryan Rossiter with another rebound. 12.7 rebounds so far for the sophomore center from Staten Island. And now if you look at the Saints on the floor, you've got more of an underclassman touch to it. Jackson just keeps firing away regardless. Ubilis on the offensive rebound. Crawford able to poke it away.
Ubilis, though, skied over top everybody. He shows you those flashes of his athletic ability every now and again.
Wignott takes it away, and now Ronald Moore will bring it up just past the midpoint here in the second half at the Times Union Center in Albany. Our second MAAC semifinal to follow between the Niagara Purple Eagles and the Ryder Bronx. And there you see, coming up next, the 2009 Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships continue with the number 3 seeded Bronx against the number 2 seeded Purple Eagles.
And when I went back to check on Kenny Hasbrook's injury status, I ran into Joe Mahalik going into the back. He said, "Whew, how about that first half?"
Wow. He's just glad that didn't happen Friday before last up at the Gallagher Center.
Or hoping it doesn't happen tomorrow if they're lucky enough to beat Ryder and get to the championship game.
Yeah. Well, sometimes losses and good butt kickings are not such a bad thing. And, you know, again, it refocuses. It gives you the opportunity, if you're a coach, as you can talk about, Rob, of further getting the players' attention when they can illustrate, you know, if you don't do what we say, this is what could happen.
And what happens as well as a team throughout the course of a long season, you're going to have some ups and downs. And every once in a while, if you're on one of those downward slides and you're playing a good team like Niagara obviously is, and you're on the road, then maybe all of a sudden you're not going to get yourself a win. They got themselves down by 17 early on and just dug themselves too big of a hole.
Downey misses. Crawford rebounds. Ivanovic loses the ball out of bounds. And now Eric Harris will come into the ball game, and Fran McCaffrey is digging a little bit deeper into the bench. Ryan Rossiter will take a seat. Eric Harris is a 6'9" senior who was a walk-on until this year when he was awarded a scholarship by Fran McCaffrey. And that is Harris. Moore, there's the assist, if the finish, and Ubilis does it. 13 assists, ties Deramus Bennerman for the all-time single-game MAAC tournament record. Bennerman did it for Siena back in '94 against Fairfield, and now Moore has equaled that here tonight.
And a lot of the finishes have been easy. That one was not. Although I'll tell you what, Edwin Ubilis makes hard plays look easy.
Well, when he left the ground, you thought, well, maybe he's not going to get there. But he hung in the air long enough to get to the other side of the rim and finish it off. And there you see the numbers for Moore. 13 assists to go along with the 8 points. So selfish, taking 6 shots. What's he thinking about?
Well, you were on that one early.
Yeah,
we were a couple minutes in, and you were searching through the record book for that one.
And sometimes they fall short, but, you know.
Who knew you were?
I love records. I love keeping track of them. And when you see someone get off to a start like that, 6 assists in 4 minutes, I can't help but go digging for the record book. And by the way, Siena so far tonight, 23 assists, 2 off their season high. Turner and Crawford go out for Fairfield. Urel Hawkins comes back in for Fairfield. We've talked the last couple of days about the terrific job that Ed Cooley has done as the head coach of the Stags, keeping them together in spite of all of their issues on the roster. And he has talked about looking forward to taking a vacation. And for Coach Cooley, it's probably only about 8 minutes away before he can head to a sandy beach somewhere.
Well, they've overachieved coming down the stretch with all the injuries that they've had. Just did not have enough firepower. They ran into a buzzsaw. They had to keep it close, try to hang around. Siena didn't allow them to hang around. Came out with great energy right from the get-go.
More Ubilis, Wignott, Downey, and Harris on the floor for the Saints with the shot clock winding down. Moore nearly turns it over, gets it back and misses the shot. Here comes Herbie Allen. Lyndon Jordan crosses over Downey, and he will shoot 2. Those free throws will come after we come back. Kyle Downey and the Saints on top by 27. Welcome back to the Citizens Bank MAAC Championships presented by Pepsi Max. Getting a glimpse there of some of the new courtside seating for the MAAC tournament this year here at the Times Union Center. Here's a look at the SiriusXM stats of the game, and it's pretty clear that it's been all Siena right from the start.
Sharing the basketball, 23 assists. Now that's a formula they've used all season long, and they have dominated inside. So many of those points in the paint, Doug, have been out on the break.
Yep. And Ryan Rossiter among those who have helped lead the way. He's got 12 points, 13 for Clarence Jackson, 15 now for Edwin Ubilis. Lyndon Jordan at the line is the only double-figure scorer so far tonight for the Stags.
And in their win earlier this year in this building against Fairfield, Siena had 21 assists on 31 field goals, so it's nothing new for them.
Ronald Moore, the point guard, with 13 assists, still on the floor out there with Edwin Ubilis. Kyle Downey, Owen Wignott, and now Stephen Priestley, another little-used forward who has checked into the game for Siena for Harris.
And they haven't had to expend a whole lot of energy here tonight, so it still has some of the starters out on the floor. Now over the next couple of minutes, you expect for Fran McCaffrey to go even deeper into his bench.
Nero clears the Downey miss.
And when Ronald Moore is out, remember it's usually Kenny Hasbrook that's their backup point guard. Hasbrook still back in the training room.
But again, as you reported a few minutes ago, if you flipped away and came back, Kenny Hasbrook left with an apparent cramp in his right calf, which at the time looked like could have been a serious injury, but the report we've gotten is that he will be okay. Herbie Allen with another three-pointer. He has been dead-eye from downtown. Here comes Allen back the other way. 6.5 minutes remaining in regulation. Moore comes away with the steal. Burst of speed over Olander, and Moore will shoot 2. And nice bit of sportsmanship there by young Mr. Olander to help Moore back to his feet. Now, in case you're curious, Ronald Moore is 2 off the all-time school record for assists in a game. That's 15, held by Mark Showbiz Brown back in the first year Siena played in the MAAC. Back in 89-90 in a game against Army. Back when the Cadets were part of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. Ivanovic in, Nero goes out. Turner checks back in, and Hawkins goes out.
Amazing how quiet the building has gotten. Siena's been so dominant. Not only have they taken Fairfield out of the ball game, but they've taken the crowd out as well.
We've yet to get the official attendance for this semifinal session so far. Yesterday in the quarterfinals that Siena played in, over 9,000 people here. We wound up with an official attendance of about 9,700 yesterday. I don't think we've gotten that far here today.
But you would think certainly tomorrow night for the championship game, they have an opportunity to go above that number.
Herbie Allen continuing to hit the threes. He's now got 15 points on 5 3-point shots. Well, we've been talking about the terrific balance on offense for the Siena Saints. And let's take a look at it. Ubilis with the 15, Jackson 13, Rossiter 12. And it was that Moore-Rossiter combo that really got things going off the start here tonight.
And again, they have so many offensive weapons. You don't have to key in on one guy. They share the basketball. Whoever's open shoots it. And those guys, when you're open, they can knock shots down. Brett McCaffrey was not happy, though, with the way his team has become a little lackadaisical. Just talking about the fact that the crowd's not been in the ball game. He doesn't think his team's defensive intensity's been there, and so he's going back to his bench, and he's bringing back in Alex Franklin. Got Jackson back out on the floor now, and Rossiter will come in on the next dead ball.
Yeah, 28-point lead has been cut to 19 thanks to an 11-2 Fairfield run.
And again, we all are talking about, well, do you get him a rest? All Fred McCaffrey's trying to do is make sure his team stays sharp right now.
Yep.
Worrying about making sure that when they get to tomorrow night's final, that they are as sharp as they can be.
So other than Hasbrook, who is still in the locker room receiving treatment on his leg, Siena has 3 of its 5 starters out there, and Clarence Jackson, the 6th man of the year, as well as Rossiter at the scorer's table to come back in at the next whistle. Ivanovic misses, long rebound for Moore. No, you're right. As we've talked about this entire second half, if you're the coach, you're forever trying to balance what's best for the team, and you may not always know what's best for the team in terms of the formula for keeping people fresh, sharp, healthy. It's tough to service all of those different things all at the same time. Jackson for 3.
But in both of their games here, both the quarterfinal and today here in this semi, they've not had to use a ton of energy. It hasn't been a real physical game at times, and because they've gotten out to the good side leads, they've been able to work some clock and be able to get some guys some extra reps.
And if you can't make it down here to the Times Union Center tomorrow night for the 9 o'clock championship game, you can check it out on ESPN2 as well. Ryan Rossiter back in. Owen Wignott walks to the bench. Wignott had his career high of 10 points in the quarterfinals against Canisius last night. Rossiter back into the ball game to grab another rebound. Rossiter with 12 points and 8 rebounds so far. He is among the league leaders with 8 double-doubles so far this season. That leads the team. Ubilis misses from the elbow. Lyndon Jordan pulls down the rebound. Just about 3.5 minutes remaining in regulation. Now this will be Siena's 20th straight win at home. We got a clarification off of the question that I posed in the first half, again from Jill Skitarzak from the MAAC office, that per NCAA rules, all Siena men's games this weekend count as home games here at the Times Union Center. They play all of their regular season home games in this building. And so yesterday's win against Canisius and this one here against Fairfield count to extend that home winning streak that will now reach 20.
As it should be, because clearly this is their home court, and it is an advantage playing in this building.
No question about it. They have ridden that advantage to a huge lead. The 2009 Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships are brought to you by Pepsi Max, your world gone Max. FYE, strictly for your entertainment. Verizon Wireless, the official wireless provider of the MAAC. New York Lottery, hey, you never know. Sirius XM, everything worth listening to is now on Sirius XM. And by the 2009 Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships. Get your tickets now by calling 1-800-30-EVENT or by logging on to timesunion.com. MAAC Madness, the tradition continues. And we're back here in Albany as the Citizens Bank MAAC Championships continue, presented by Pepsi Max. It's been all Siena from the outset. The Saints led 48-24 at halftime. Alex Franklin with the layup.
Just sharing the basketball once again.
That matches the season high for Siena for team assists, 25. So that illustrates your point, Rob. And the 14th assist for Ronald Moore. How about Herbie Allen? Herbie playing his final game as a collegiate. Going out with a flourish now with 17 points and a terrific finish in traffic.
He's really been the guy that's kept this team together with all the injuries. Jonathan Hahn leaving the team. All of a sudden the ball was in his hands. Remember, Jonathan Hahn, a first-team preseason selection at the point guard spot. And Herbie Allen all of a sudden went from being off the ball and being a shooter. The ball was in his hands and did a really admirable job coming down the stretch, providing that leadership and doing a great job with the ball in his hands at the point.
And scoring a lot of points as well over his last 7 games as a collegiate. He has been averaging 17 points per game. And again, this for a guy who has never really relied upon to score that much at all through his first 3.5 seasons. Under 10 to shoot. Ronald Moore will shoot. High rebound, grabbed by Franklin. I think Alex Franklin, the way he went after that loose ball, wants to make sure he's not in Fran McCaffrey's doghouse.
Yeah, some good energy after it on the offensive glass and good strength to fight through. Fighting for that inside position and elevating over time. Look how he fights through that contract. That's good strength there to finish.
3-point play completed by the 6'5 junior from Reading, Pennsylvania. There you see 13 points for Alex Franklin. All second team in the MAAC this year. Jordan pulls up. No good. Olander pulls it back out. Herbie Allen hits on the baseline jumper. He's now got 19 points.
Well, he's hanging in there, fighting right to the bitter end. His quickness to be able to create some space for the pull-up.
Ronald Moore being chased by Turner with just over a minute remaining. The announcement of 1 minute remaining in the second half draws a response from the crowd here. But again, as you said, Rob, it's been rather quiet since that rollicking first 15 minutes. Part of that was our Pepsi Max slam of the game. Of course, off a pass from Kenny Hasbrook to Ryan Rossiter, who throws it down. No rim required. he says.
You and I were joking yesterday. He had a dunk that he just kind of snuck in there. When we had our Pepsi Slam of the game yesterday, we said, no, it wasn't Ryan Rossiter's, huh? He made sure he didn't have to sneak that one in today.
Nope. That was a good-looking finish. And a finish to the ball game for the Siena starting unit. Uvalis goes out. Rossiter goes out. Well, assuming that Kenny Hasbrook is going to be okay, the Saints certainly seem to be primed and playing their best basketball heading into the championship game tomorrow night, Rob.
Well, especially the second half yesterday and the first half. And in their defense, sometimes when you get out to that big lead, it's hard to keep that intensity. And so, yes, a little bit of a sluggish second half. I'm sure Fran McCaffrey wasn't completely thrilled. Remember, he took some guys out, wasn't happy with what they were doing, got guys back into the ball game. But when all's said and done, to have two relatively easy and comfortable wins in your first two rounds of any conference tournament, you'll take that.
Jimmy O'Sullivan and Sean Gerzak have checked into the game for Fairfield and play the final seconds of this MAAC semifinal. Ronald Moore with 5 seconds to shoot. He'll pull the trigger from the foul line. The ball goes in. Did Jackson touch it? Apparently he did not. And indeed, the basket goes to Ronald Moore. 3 just before the buzzer by Jordan gives him 15. But it's Ronald Moore who stands in the spotlight tonight for the Siena Saints. 80-65, your final score. The Saints move on to the MAAC title game. Our Pepsi Max player of the game, Ronald Moore, a career-high 14 assists. One off the school record. It's also a new MAAC tournament record. And the Maestro, right from the beginning, had everything under control.
Right